This video is brought to you by the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I wanted to quickly apologize once again for just being really sporadic with these uploads of these podcasts. I know it's just really inconsistent, and I know that's kind of not ideal in any way to, keep you guys interested in listening to what I have to say on these podcasts, but I'm not done. I'm still going to keep trying to do them best I can. It's just been really tricky to find the time. They're just really time consuming to sit and talk for 45 minutes, an hour plus, and then all the editing of the audio and trimming and turning it into a video and exporting that and all the stuff that goes into it. It just takes a whole bunch of time that is difficult for me to find sometimes. I have a little bit of time this morning before I have to head out for work, and I wanted to jump back into some of the questions that were submitted by you guys during my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest a little bit earlier in the year. The year almost over. It's now December. Christmas time is here. My tree is up. My lights are up. And yeah, it's surreal. It's strange. It's almost like I felt like the summer was kind of like a normal pace, just kind of chugged along, normal summer. And then I had my best friend came and visited in September. And everything since then, since he left, he was here for like 3 days. We did a ton of stuff. And as soon as he left, I just felt like blink of an eye, and it was Halloween, then it was Thanksgiving, and now it's Christmas. I just feel like the whole period of the fall has just flown by. I had an awesome fall. I threw a lot of discs, actually. I got in some just incredibly beautiful rounds out there that I've been trying to document on my Instagram and stuff, if you guys want to check that out. Played Shampooé for the first time in a while. Haven't been there in a while. I got to play Pier, Timber a few times. I played Milo the other day for like an early winter round at Milo. That was just unbelievable. And for the most part, we've been dodging the weather pretty good, but the rains are rolling back in now, and that will probably open up more time for me to do some podcasting as well. I'm going to try to bring in Andy to do like a year-end wrap-up show where we talk about our favorite moments of the season. I'm definitely going to make that happen. It's just a matter of scheduling there. And then, yeah, hopefully for the rest of the off-season, maybe I can bring in some more interviews and stuff and keep it going, but I don't know how consistent I'm going to be able to get these out. So I apologize for that, but I try to be honest with you guys and just let you know what's been going on. What else is up? Hopefully you've noticed I've been getting back into doing the instructional videos. If you have any suggestions for me on topics I can cover on those, feel free to submit them. discgolfnerd1@gmail.com is my email if you want to get in touch with me, or just leave a comment down below here or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for other things that I can kind of talk about on those type of videos. Without further ado, and make sure I'm still recording and everything's good, sounding okay. Let's get back into the questions submitted by you guys, my viewers. I still have a whole bunch of these. I'm going to try to chop through as many as I can here in the next 45 minutes or so. I got to be done around noon to get ready for everything else I have to do today. Okay, moving into the questions. As always, I will do my best to try not to mispronounce your names, but sometimes the names are tricky. I'm just going to kind of go with my first instinct and do my best. As I'm looking through just this one screen, there's a whole bunch of them that are a little bit interesting, but never anything I'm intentionally doing to disrespect you guys. I'll do my best to try to get your names correct, but I always might mess them up for sure. This one comes from Dominic Fioretti. Really enjoying your videos. You're the only one that does consistent in the bags, and I'm a big fan. Well, thank you, Dominic. I will have a new in the bag coming up very soon. I'm also going to try to make that happen this week. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to have quite as much throwing footage as I did last time, but I definitely have some for some of the newer discs in my bag. I have a few shots filmed that I'll throw in there, and definitely switch my background a little bit. So stay tuned for that. I'll be up soon. Drake Castle asks, what is your favorite disc golf related memory? Probably my first ace was pretty awesome. My second ace was great. I remember both of those quite well. Let's see. In terms of like pro disc golf, after I met Rick, I was a big fan of Ricky. I met him, and then he won Beaver State right after that, and I went up to get a picture with him after the round, and he remembered me, and it was just a really cool interaction. I got a picture with him then, and that was really cool in terms of like the professional side of things. Hearing my voice come up on the broadcast for the Disc Golf Pro Tour and on the Smashbox podcast, that's always been a really cool memory. And it's still kind of trippy when people mention me, you know, on podcasts and different things like that. It's pretty wild. Yeah, a lot of different interesting things, and pretty much all of them have something to do with this channel and the kind of little niche that I've carved out for myself. But probably my number one is my favorite ace, the best shot I've ever thrown. I've told you guys this story a couple of times here on the show, but I'll give you a quick rundown. We went to try to play Buxton. It was closed, so we moved over to Stub Stewart instead, which is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite course in the world. I just absolutely love that course. It's wooded golf. There's a ton of elevation. The fairways are tight, but there are defined lines that you can hit, and you can execute the shots, and they're really rewarding to execute them. And I love the course there. It's just stunning. Me and my wife go there a few times a year and stay at the cabins as well because they're cheap and just extremely relaxing and nice to be at. And I just love Stub Stewart State Park. So that's part of why this memory is important to me, is that I just love the place that it happened. But we were playing the round. We got to hole 7. It is downhill. It's like 330 downhill and kind of slight right around the corner. And I had my camcorder in my bag, and we were filming certain shots, but we didn't film this hole. And it's one of those things. Would it have mattered? You know, would I have executed the shot as well if the camera was rolling? Who knows? You know, you never really know. But I kind of wish it would have been pretty cool to have it on camera because it was such a great shot. You can see this exact hole on my channel here. If you look for my favorite hole on the course series of Stub Stewart, you'll see the hole I'm talking about. I threw my Fury. And I was just concentrating on keeping the nose down. I kind of reached back a little bit high and kind of pulled through low to really exaggerate throwing it nose down to match the angle of the downslope. And I knew if I hit it hard enough with just like a slight hyzer or even flat, it would naturally move right and get me around the corner. So I just focused on the nose angle and just hit it just right. It turned around the corner perfectly, and it was going straight towards the basket. And I just figured it was going to be on the green, which was better than I've ever done because it's pretty far away and you have to really execute. It's really easy to leave it early and fade out left. You know, anytime you're throwing downhill, it's tough to get it to hold over to the right all the way. A soft forehand would probably be a better shot overall on this hole, maybe, but I'm so inept with a forehand, I really couldn't say. But yeah, as it kind of bent around the corner, I lost sight of it, and I turned around to look at Andy, and then I heard it go in. It just hit dead center, right on the pole, hit chains, and dropped straight down in. Or it must have, because basically where it was in the basket when I got down there, because I didn't actually see it enter the chains, I just heard it hit real pure. And then when I got down there, it was like right in line with the pole, like perfectly in the center of the basket. So that was crazy. I was jumping up and down and freaking out, and I was so amped on it for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week. And still now, when I think about it, I can get excited. That's probably my favorite overall disc golf memory. Andy was there, Anthony was there, and it was, yeah, by far the sickest shot I've ever thrown. It was crazy. Moving on, Drew Grassley, thank you so much for all the great content and reviews. It means a lot to have people out there willing to help newer to intermediate players like me. Keep up the good work. Fingers crossed for a win. Sorry, Drew, I don't think you won, but thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Next one from Emilio Ritaco. Let's see. What's the future of your channel looking like? Maybe scheduled podcast dates. Keep up the great work. Damn. Yeah, I probably should do that, but it's just really tricky to find the time to make this happen. But yeah, that would be great if I could somehow figure out how to always make sure I have an episode releasing on the same days and stuff like most big podcasts do. That would be phenomenal. But I'm not like, yeah, I don't know. It's just trickier than it seems like it should be. I understand it sounds like an excuse, but it's tough. It's tough to find the time for me. But I'll try to keep it going. Eric Carl. Once upon a time, I had a video production company. Times got hard and I gave up on my vision. Don't give up. My competitors didn't and are enjoying the rewards now. That's great advice, Carl. I appreciate that. And that's a great thing to kind of remind people. And, I'll go on a little tangent here. Sometimes I get messages from people saying, hey, how did you build a subscriber base? Or, I started making videos, but nobody's watching them. What should I do? And it's important to remember, like, I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been doing this channel for a very long time now. My channel predates most of the popular YouTube disc golf channels out there. I've been doing my videos for longer than some of the biggest. I think I've been around longer than Jomez. They're the number one channel by a huge margin. Of course, they're a completely different thing, a different level, and an entirely different situation that they have, with tournament coverage and stuff. It's barely related to my channel at all, other than the fact that it's disc golf. But it's important to just keep doing stuff. I wonder what would have happened in my life if I had stuck with just trying to pursue music full time and really just that's all I cared about. I've had a lot of situations in my life where I get kind of burnt out on something and I move away from it, and I wonder like what would have happened if I stuck with it. And that's why with this channel I'm just been trying to make it a point to just keep going. Just who knows what's going to happen with it. Just keep doing what I'm doing and see where it goes, because there's the only real way to find out. But you're absolutely right, Eric. Like, a lot of the times the difference between somebody who ends up being successful at something and somebody who ends up doing something else entirely are just keep doing it. That's the main difference. I hear I'm a big fan of a lot of the stand-up comedians out now, and Rogan and Tom Segura and Bert and Joey Diaz and all those guys. And that's the main thing they preach to people that want to, try to be successful, is to just don't give up, keep putting the work in, keep putting the time in. And that's all what a lot of them did. They've worked small gigs and stuff for a long time and slowly built it up. And now they're like hugely successful and doing great things. Joe's a little different. He's got a different story than a lot of them, but yeah. It's true. You really just got to kind of keep rolling and see where you can take it. And if you give up, then you'll never really know. So I'm going to keep trying to do this thing and see where it goes with it. And even if it's nothing more than it is now, and I have a subscriber base and you guys watch the videos and I interact with you, that's beautiful. And I'm more than happy to keep doing it just for that. So we'll see what happens. Eric Mann, can you tell me how the different stabilities affect the flight of an overhand throw? Longer panning in the air if it's more or less stable. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I'm sorry. I don't ever really throw overhands. The only time I throw overhands, I'll throw like a tomahawk as an escape shot if that's all I have to get me back to the fairway. That's really the only time I throw it. I don't want to risk my shoulder trying to go for a big thumber or tomahawk. So I truly have no idea how that all works. I think it just means basically your little sentence of experience here that you put in the parentheses, that's basically all I know as well. Longer panning in the air. Oh wait, you're asking, is it longer panning in the air if it's more or less stable? I believe a more understable disc will take more time to pan through its flight, and a more overstable disc will hold a tighter, like, corkscrew, I guess. That's basically all I really have for you. And I could be wrong about that as well. I truly don't know. There was an old Discraft Clinic video about overhand shots, thumbers, and tomahawks. And I think it's still out there, and I remember it being good information, so maybe that might be able to help you out if you go look for that. Next one comes from Ethan Watson. What has been your top 10 worst discs you have reviewed? I don't want to really go through a list of discs I didn't like, because that's really all it is that they didn't connect with me personally, because there's not really an inherently bad or good disc. Basically, it's just whether or not you like the disc and whether or not it flies the way you want it to for a shot that you're trying to achieve. That's basically all there is to it. There have been some stinkers out there that I've tested that I thought were total duds that I really didn't care for. But honestly, if there's a disc that I start testing and I really don't like it, I'm not connecting with it, and I think it's a bad disc, I probably just won't review it. Plain and simple. I didn't bring the discs that I really didn't like or I really felt like weren't good enough to really even bother spending the time on. I didn't. You guys didn't see me review them because I didn't review them. Now it's a little different nowadays since people send me stuff and I'm kind of obligated to review them. But even at this point, if somebody were to send me a disc and I really thought it sucked and I really, really didn't like it, I would probably just say, hey, I'll just pay you for this disc, and because I don't want to bring it to review because I just cannot get a feel for it, or I really don't have anything positive to say about it. But I don't really see that happening. For the most part, I just break down the discs and their attributes, what they do, and then it's up to you guys to decide whether or not that's a disc that you might want to check out, because we all have our preferences and different types of discs that work well and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I can't really think of any. I definitely couldn't list off 10 discs that I reviewed that I really hated, or I think were really bad. You know, there are definitely some out there that I didn't care for. I will say I really don't care for any of the MVP high-speed discs. I've not liked any of them. I think one of the Axiom ones was like a Vanish or something like that. That was kind of Trespass-ish. I like that disc. That was a fun one to throw. And the rest of them, the really wide rim, the super fast ones, I think they're really bad. I don't like the flight of them. I don't like the feel of them. Nothing about those were good for me. So I didn't review any of the ones, and I have no interest in doing that. Everett McDonald says, Nerdman, most of my discs are Innova, mostly because I like the G-Star plastic. Do other companies have anything similar that is other than Discmania and Infinite, which is obviously the same plastic as Innova? Yes, you have the Z Flex plastic from Discraft. They don't make the Frost or the fluid plastic anymore from the Latitude brands. They don't make that stuff anymore, but if you can find it, that was a softer plastic. But it was kind of the opposite of G-Star, which it was more overstable. G-Star tends to be less overstable in my experience. But yeah, I would definitely look into Discraft Z Flex plastic. It can be really gummy. Sometimes it can be quite similar to regular Z, just a little bit more gumminess, but you can find some that are like super floppy, and almost too soft and gummy. But yeah, I would definitely look into that. Next one is just a comment from Grant Bolig. He says, I've been watching your videos since I started. They have helped me become a better golfer, and congratulations on 7,000. Thank you so much, Grant. I appreciate it. Another Grant Reichik, I'm not exactly sure. Do you think there's a big difference in the design and disc design and plastic between the manufacturers? Not really. I think most of the top manufacturers are using high quality plastics. I think they're designing good flying discs that feel good and perform well. I think the different companies and the way they're kind of evolving, they're all kind of pushing each other to get better, because you can't really get away with having really inconsistent, crappy discs anymore, because everybody's making such good stuff. You're not going to have an impact on the market unless you can compete at that high level. So, no, I really don't think there's that big of a difference. I'm 100% confident that at any point I could switch to basically any of the major manufacturers, and I could put together a full bag using only those discs and be mostly fine out there on the course. I really don't think it would be a problem. I actually just had that idea last night. I need to jot that down before I forget it, but I guess I'll have it here on record. I was thinking about going to the Disc Depot and kind of like building a hypothetical bag from all the different manufacturers. If I were to only throw Trilogy, what would it be? If I were to only throw Innova, what would I carry? If I was going to put together just a Discraft bag, what would it be? And maybe like take like a Trooper bag out of the back room and walk around the store and kind of go through my thought process as I try to put together what I would use. I am 100% confident that I could be totally fine with basically whatever manufacturer. If I have the ability to buy the discs that I need from them, I'm sure it would be no issue whatsoever. I don't really have the money to do that right now, and I'm not intending to, of course. I'm throwing what I throw, but yeah, it wouldn't be an issue at all. So no, I really don't think there's that big of a difference. Jacob Chestnut, love your videos, man. I am super new to disc golf, but have fallen in love quickly. One question I have is, what is the best way to force myself to keep the disc low when I'm throwing into a low ceiling? That one's tough. That's something I struggle with as well. I try to keep the disc flatter when I'm throwing on a low ceiling, because if you try to throw hyzer flip, the tendency is to sometimes you end up throwing like up higher because you're trying to release on that hyzer angle, kind of low to high, and then it helps, sometimes it'll kind of encourage the disc to stand up and get some extra height underneath it. So I think flatter to even like kind of stable discs, slight anhyzer, kind of helps for low ceilings in my experience. I will also physically kind of crouch down just a little bit lower. Like I'll kind of bend my knees a little more on lower ceiling shots to try to really make sure I keep it low under that gap. And also, like, if the ceiling's really low and that's the main concern, you might want to eliminate your run up and just do a standstill, because I feel like that will kind of limit some of the other factors. And then you can just kind of reach back nice and straight, pull through nice and flat, and not worry about your footwork and stuff, and just focus on keeping the disc nice and low through that gap. But that's basically all I really have for you on that. That's one that I also continue to work on and learn over time, and something that can be a challenge for basically all players. I think it's tough because obviously too low is also a huge problem, and there's nothing worse than trying to throw a shot and having it hit the ground early and go get no distance. I mean, that just drives me bananas, especially like on approach. Oh man, that is so frustrating to me when I have a nice wide open approach and I throw one too low and then it doesn't get anywhere because it hits the ground. Oh, really frustrating stuff. Okay, James Gwinnett, what is your favorite understable distance driver for someone new to the sport? If you're new to the sport, my favorite distance driver is no distance driver whatsoever. Nothing over speed 9 or 10 max if you're new to the sport, in my opinion. And therefore, I would probably suggest something like, I'm not sure what the flight numbers are on a Roadrunner, but that's a good straight disc. Roadrunner, Valkyrie, good straight to understable disc. If you want something that's definitely going to hold turns and stuff, Roadrunner is a good disc. Valkyries are good. For Innova. I mean, there's lots of other great options for understable drivers. Leopard 3 is good. I really like Furies. I have a lighter weight Opto Fury that's a great understable driver and will still get good distance. Nice Opto Fury is a good understable disc that will hold a turn real easy. But you can also kind of throw it a little softer and flatter and get it to go real straight. You can hyzer flip it, all that kind of good stuff. If you're throwing okay and you feel like you're able to throw a little bit faster discs, I think Thrashers can be really great understable distance drivers. Those are my favorite if you find the right ones. Maybe a lighter weight flat top ESP one. Those seem to be really understable, so that's a good disc to look into. Great for rollers and flip over shots and stuff. And a Big Z Thrasher, also somewhat understable, will hold a turn if you put it on that angle, but it doesn't have too much flip for me and my arm speed personally. But yeah, if you're new to the sport, I don't recommend any distance driver. I think you're better off throwing slower stuff, 9-speed stuff like a Fury or a broken in Escape would be a great disc for that, stuff along those lines. Avenger SS. The Avenger SS is a great Discraft understable driver as well. Or the Heat would be similar to a Fury as well. Jamie Tyler Puente, what is your favorite disc to throw in the wind? Probably my Caltrup. I really trust my Caltrup basically regardless of conditions. But even when it's windy out, it doesn't really have much trouble handling that. It's not super overstable, but it has like no natural turn whatsoever. So it really holds lines well regardless, and the wind doesn't seem to bother it too much. When it gets really windy, I'll throw something like an Anchor, is my go-to overstable mid-range, and I really trust the anchors in the wind as well, especially if you get a nice like max weight Opto one that's pretty stable. It's a great wind fighter, and you can throw it into some wind and it'll just hold real straight, and it's a disc that I definitely trust in those situations as well. Yanni Hartikainen asks, when did you get hooked into disc golf, and what was your first disc you ever ordered online? Also would like to know what your plans are for the future of your channel. Keep it up. Have a great summer. Okay. When did I get hooked? I started playing, I had played my first round right when I moved to Oregon. That winter, a few months later, I got my first ever disc. It was a Valkyrie and a Birdie, a Thumbtrack Birdie. My wife got me those for Christmas. We were still just dating at the time, but she got me those for Christmas. The next summer, I think, is when me and my buddy, who originally took me out to play, we really started to get into it. We played a lot. I started accumulating more discs and really got hooked into the sport. It was then. So it wasn't like right away. I liked it, but it took a little bit of time until we started playing consistently for me to really get super into it. And then I haven't really looked back since then. First disc I ever ordered online, I really couldn't tell you. I don't know. There was I think maybe like the next Christmas after that or something, I ordered some discs, or I showed my wife a few that I wanted. I can't remember, honestly. It was so long ago that I don't know. I don't know if I ordered anything on eBay or anything like that. Yeah, I really couldn't tell you. That's an interesting one. I wish I did know that. That would be cool to know. But yeah, I remember distinctly asking her to get me my magnet that I still have, a soft magnet, and I think I got a Gateway Apache, ultralight Apache, and a DGA Reef that was also lightweight. It was 150 grams. She got me all three of those at one point. I think that was the next Christmas after that. And those, yeah, that might have been it. I don't know if I had any other discs in the interim there. Maybe I remember I could get discs at Sports Authority. I got a couple of discs. I got like a Viper there one time, just looking at the flight chart, and I'm like, oh, this is on the complete opposite side from the Valkyrie that I had, so maybe I'll try this, see what it does. And it was really overstable, and I didn't know what to do with it at all in those days, all that kind of stuff. It's fun to think back on those days, And I was thinking about it the other day talking to Andy. We both kind of agree we just don't understand the whole mystery box thing, because we're both so picky about what we want that just the idea of just ordering a box of discs just seems preposterous to a guy like me, because like I want to know exactly what I want. I want a specific weight range, even though I don't really pay as much attention to that anymore. I want the specific plastic and a very specific in terms of the molds and stuff that I'm interested in. So like the idea of just getting a box that is full of whatever just seems crazy. But I can remember a time when that probably would be awesome. When I was just starting out, and if I just got like a box of Discraft discs, and I didn't know what was in there, and I get out and test them, and I didn't know anything about them, that would be really fun. So I totally get it from that perspective. But just for me personally, and who I am now, I mean, I've tested hundreds of molds now. I'm incredibly picky, but it's funny to think about back in those days. I didn't know much about anything. And now, as weird as it is for me to even hear the words coming out of my mouth, it's kind of true that I'm like one of the more knowledgeable disc testers in the world at this point. I mean, I've reviewed 225 different molds or something like that, which is nuts to really think about that. Hundreds of discs that I've tested over the years, in-depth tested compared to each other, and I have that whole knowledge base in there somewhere. And as much as I don't remember every little thing about every little disc, at some point I tested them all. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting to think about that now. But, yeah, back in the day, I didn't have much. And, in terms of the future of my channel, I'm going to kind of keep going. Just like we talked about earlier, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. Don't really have any, grandiose plans of new and exciting things that I want to do. But I have some ideas, and we'll see what I can make happen with the time and the resources at hand. Jeremy Robertson asks, what is your favorite distance driver for higher altitudes? I've only played in higher altitudes a couple of times, and I really just kind of leaned on my slightly more understable discs. That's basically all it is. I think the only time I've ever really played at altitude is in Utah, in Salt Lake City, where my uncle lives. I visited him once and we had a chance to go play some golf. He had just started getting into it. Or he might not have actually been into it all at the time. I think I brought discs and we tried it because I wanted to go check out some of the courses. Now he has some land up there, actually, or down there from my perspective, and he's got some baskets on his land and stuff, so they play like private golf, which is pretty sweet. I really got to get down there and check it out. But yeah, I think just, if you throw a few different T-birds or something, just as an example, and I would probably go with your most flippy one for your kind of straight to stable shots at altitude, because it's definitely a noticeable difference, and your discs will kind of float a little bit longer. You'll get a little bit more distance, and you're kind of the disc you kind of use for more of your flippy shots will be straighter at altitude. Jesse Disbinet, what is the one disc you could not go without? Probably my magnets. But as much as we love our discs, there's no disc I could not go without. Truthfully, I mean, if somebody said you absolutely can never throw a soft magnet again or any magnet again, would I stop playing disc golf? Of course not. There's something I could use, I would use a Deputy or a Swan or, any number of other straight to understable putters would be totally fine, and it's not that big of a deal. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, where I think everybody's making good discs and doing well with that, and I think I could throw anything and be fine and have good shots and feel like I'm confident with my bag, if just given the time to learn the different discs. But that is my favorite disc is the magnet, soft magnets, especially broken in soft magnets, orange especially for whatever reason, just a sentimental disc that always worked well for me. But other than that, the Caltrup is one of my most trusted discs that I have no intention of stopping throwing anytime soon. And then you guys all know how much I love the Gobi. John L. McKinney, could you build a bag for an intermediate player that would help their game? I could be much too much to go into right here. But John, if you hear this and you have any questions or you want to send me an email and kind of talk through some different molds that might work well, what you like, what you're throwing, what you need, I'd be more than happy to kind of talk that out with you. And like I said, stay tuned. Maybe I can make that happen and go down to the depot and kind of talk through building a bag out of the stuff that's there for different manufacturers. That would be kind of fun. This one just says, John, what does a bead do on a disc? I'm not really sure what the bead is really intended for. It kind of works into a feel thing now, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've heard Dave Dunapace say that the point of the bead was to prevent the disc from breaking in as quickly. So the bead is there and it takes some of the damage and it takes more time for that bead to break in, where if it's just the raw edge of the disc on the bottom there, it will break in faster. If I'm not mistaken, that's what I've heard. I don't really know 100%, but that's all I really got for you on that one. Joseph Illingworth, would you ever pull disc opinions / throw submissions from your audience for your disc reviews? Maybe add them as short clips in the video. Yeah, that could happen. If somebody wanted to, if I'm going to review a disc coming up soon and somebody really liked the disc or was experienced with it and sent me some video clips of them throwing it that was quality enough that I could use it, that could be something that could happen. Shout out to Danny Lindahl. He actually tried to do that before I started making a point of filming with Andy and James and stuff. Danny had reached out to me and said, hey, what if, if you're reviewing DD stuff, what if I throw it and I send you the video? I don't know if I ever used that for any of the reviews. I might have. But yeah, he kind of reached out to me about making that happen early on. And then I think shortly after that, I decided I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna make it happen myself. But yeah, I still appreciate him reaching out about that. And he did send me some clips of him throwing something, a few of the discs that I was testing at the time, but I can't remember. I think it was a Deputy maybe and something else. I can't quite remember if that actually made it into the video or not. I think it did though. Who knows? How would I know? I only made the damn videos. Josiah Pancoast says, if you could pick discs to throw for the next 5 years from only one manufacturer, who would it be? Oh, I mean, I could pretty much flip a coin between Latitude and Discraft at this point. I throw Furies, Gobies, Anchors, Compass, Caltrup, and Gladiator from Latitude. I throw magnets thrashers from Discraft. But, could I throw, keep my magnets and my thrashers, add in some heats and zones and some buzzes and stuff and be fine? Sure. And if I had to switch to a different putter and a different, go back to throwing trespasses or something instead of my thrashers and then switch to a different putter, that wouldn't be that big of a deal either. So it'd be somewhere in between. JT O'Brien asks, if I get one day in the Portland area, what is the one course I have to play even if I can't throw far? It's got to be Milo. It's got to be Milo. It's got to be Milo. If you're saying, really close to Portland, you can't get outside of town by much, then Pier Park is the clear choice. And Pier is a great course. Nothing against it. I love it. I don't get up there as much as I probably should. I don't get out to Milo as much as I should, but Milo is the answer. If you're in Portland area and you can only play one track, you got to go see Milo. It's a special place. There are a number of phenomenal places. Horning's Hideout is amazing. Stub Stewart, probably my favorite course overall. I love Dabney. Timbers, the oldest course in the state. I think the oldest 18-hole course in the state, and it's fantastic. There's all kinds of great courses to play around here, but Milo's got to be the one if you can only do one. Let me see if I can get through this next page. It's going to be tough with the time I have. This one comes from Yuho Vitasalo. Hi, I like your channel, but have you considered having someone to chat with for the podcast sometimes? Think it could bring some new perspective. Yeah, I've done a little bit of that, but again, it gets back to what I talked about earlier, which is, it's hard enough for me to find the time to sit down and do these, let alone actually schedule it out with other people. It's really tricky for me, and my work scheduling and stuff. It's real tough. So I have done that. I like doing that. It's great. But it's not always an option. Wouldn't necessarily work for these question and answer episodes either. Justin Casino, what's your favorite utility disc? If you had to select one person, any person to make a 60-foot putt for the fate of the world, who do you choose? I'll probably put that on, Rick or Paul, essentially. Flip a coin between the two of them. 60-footer. Yeah, I would say Rick or Paul. I feel pretty confident in James Conrad to hit that one to save us all. Other than that, let's see. Yeah, no, it's Rick or Paul. Flip a coin between Rick or Paul. That's who you want in that spot. Favorite utility disc? I would say probably my Anchor, I guess. I don't really... this could be another huge tangent, but I'm going to try to restrain myself. What is a utility disc? What does that mean? Does that mean a disc that because everybody always says, oh, like a Firebird's a great utility disc. What does that mean? Forehands and hyzers? Was that a lot of utility? You could throw spikes, I guess. You could throw, every disc is really versatile and can do a lot of different shots. So what does a utility disc really mean? It's not something that's ever really been defined per se, but in terms of a disc that I can use to kind of get out of trouble or, I don't know, probably my magnets then, I guess. I'm throwing those on the most different angles and different shot shapes and stuff on approaches and stuff, trying to sneak through fairways and do different things. I putt with them. I throw them off the tee, I do a ton of different stuff with them. So yeah, it's weird. It's one of those things that we all use that phrase, but what does it actually mean? Has anybody ever truly defined it? I have no idea. But yeah, a lot of people seem to say their utility disc is like an overstable disc. And for me, that's a Gladiator, but I almost never throw it. So yeah, I don't know. Probably my Anchor. I also really love the Justice. It's a great disc. I just don't often need it, but the times I end up needing it out there on the course are pretty few and far between. So I've just been carrying the Anchor because I don't really need both, even though the Justice is definitely more overstable. Justin Choi says, come out to play Fort Steilacoom. We should get a round in with Dion. Absolutely. Would love to do that. Maybe we can do that in the spring. I do really need to connect with Dion to throw some shots and do some filming and stuff. That would be fantastic. But, that's going to get trickier here in the Pacific Northwest. It's raining right now, and it's, I think rain's in the forecast every day for the next, month. Justin Dykes, what's your favorite mid-range over all the brands? Come on, Justin. Come on now. You know it's the Govee. I mean, do I really? I'm just giving you grief. Yeah, no, it's the Govee. I talk about it incessantly here on the channel. I can't believe you haven't even heard that before. I mean, I own like 15 of them now. I carry 2 or 3 at all times. I mean, it's my favorite mid-range ever out of all the mids I've ever tested. And there's so many good ones out there. The Compass is phenomenal. The Anchor's phenomenal. You can't go wrong with a Buzz. Comets are really fun. I love the Meteor for a long time, was my favorite disc. I'll tell you what, this Opto Fuse I just tested to review, went straight in the bag, and I'm loving that thing too. I love mid-ranges in general. They're super fun to throw. But yeah, the Govee is definitely the one. Cade Wisniewski, do you ever throw minis for fun? And if so, would you be willing to try a 3D printed mini? Absolutely. If you want to send me one, hit me up. And yeah, no, I do. I actually just got one of the Prodigy minis, the M4 mini that they just released. It's really fun to throw. And then I took it out with a Junior EMAC that I also have, a Metal Flake Junior EMAC, and they're both super fun to throw. They fly on a laser, and they go pretty far too. Like, I can throw them almost as far as a regular golf disc, which is hilarious. And they're super fun to throw. Yeah, 100%. In terms of like the really small minis, the only one I ever really tried to throw around is the MVP Nano. That one flies okay if you can, control it. It's a little tricky, but the kind of mid-range, mid-sized ones like the Mini Buzz, or the Junior Judge, the Junior EMAC, and now this Prodigy M4, the Mini M4, they're super fun to throw. Totally recommend getting one. The Mini Nuke like crushes far, and it's crazy fun to throw those things. It's really, really enjoyable. I defy anyone to throw a Mini Nuke and not smile. It's just a really fun little toy. Keith Keegan, Keith Keegan says, keep up the great information. You've helped this old noob, 51, and just picked up the sport this summer, get knowledgeable, and have increased my desire for the game. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Keith. That's awesome. Get out there and have some fun. Kelly says, I like your reviews, but I miss the informational videos. Kelly, I really hope that you've noticed that I've brought them back, and I will continue to do my best to do that. As long as I have ideas and time, I will do my best to put those out and see if I can help you guys out. Okay, this is a little bit longer one from Kevin Varney. Thanks for continuing to put out great content. Super helpful for someone just getting into the sport like myself. My question is related to your YouTube channel. Has your growth with the channel coincided with greater success in your disc golf game, or do you feel like playing disc golf and discussing disc golf remain somewhat independent in their outcome? More simply, does your work put into the channel have an effect on your game? Honestly, this is, probably something that would surprise people, I guess. I think, if anything, doing the amount of reviews and stuff that I've done has actually made me worse at disc golf, because I'm just throwing so much different stuff all the time. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm trying to separate and only, do dedicated days of filming with the review discs, testing them independently from my own game. Because what I've done over the past is I've infiltrated and kind of put those review discs into my bag in order to test them during rounds. And I'm not saying it's like been a huge problem or anything, but I've gotten to the point now where, like, if I'm headed out to play around with my buddies, I'm trying not to bring review discs at all, unless it's one that I'm also considering for my bag. If it's just a disc that I'm reviewing, I want to leave that at home and just bring out my discs, throw my discs, learn my discs. Because I've spent so much time testing so much other stuff, I think I've sacrificed a little bit in the time I've spent learning and really knowing and trusting my own plastic as much as I should. So it's not a big deal, but, if it's one way or the other, it's definitely been more of a detriment. I'm sure in some ways it's been, really great. And I've learned a lot about golf in general and how to control different types of discs and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I can throw and get useful shots out of almost any disc at this point, based on the fact that I've had to do that for testing. I can throw and control an extremely flippy disc to the point where I can kind of throw it and know exactly what it's going to do. And I can also, figure out a use for the most meat hook driver ever. And I can still figure out ways that it can be used on the course just based on my experience testing so many different types of things. But yeah, I mean, it's probably a mix of both, but I do feel like it has been a detriment in some ways where I would have learned more and probably gotten better if I had spent that much time working on my own form, my own bag, and my own throwers as I have testing and reviewing stuff for you guys. But I would do it all again. I absolutely love it, and I have no intentions of stopping. Kyle asks, what disc in your bag do you throw the most? Also, congrats on the 7K. Thank you for all the for the giveaway. Probably, do I throw the most? I mean, it's got to be my magnets and caltrops, just because I putt with the magnets and I throw my caltrops on basically all of my approaches, as long as it's not a flippy or laser straight kind of flip up approach. I'll throw with a magnet. Anything moving left to right, I'll throw with a magnet. But if it's any kind of a open to hyzer approach, I'm throwing with the caltrop. And yeah, probably my soft caltrop is one of the most thrown discs in my bag. I've thrown that thing a million times, always know what it's going to do, and I really trust it. But it's hard to say which disc I've thrown the most. But it's got to be a putter or approach disc, probably my my magnets that I throw on tee shots and on approaches, and I putt with them and all that kind of stuff. I throw those a lot. Kyle Anderson, what is your main putter? I'm putting with a Jawbreaker magnet, purple. I think it's 174. Jawbreaker magnet. I've been messing around a little bit. I'll touch on this in my in the bag video. I tried a hard D magnet for a little while. I bought a pair of new soft magnets that I thought looked cool, but they ended up being like too soft for me, which is strange because I like softer plastic. They're really, really soft and floppy, and I don't really like the feel of them for putting so much. So I'm going to just keep those around for extra throwers or beginner discs or whatever. But yeah, the Jawbreaker magnet, it has so much nice straight floating glide to it. And as long as I'm not messing it up, it's a great putter. And I think a lot of the problems I was having were just me, and a lot of them stemming from this foot injury that I've been dealing with since the summer. Kyle Pruim, what's your favorite disc of all time? Discraft soft magnet, or magnets in general, I guess, since I putt with the Jawbreakers, but the softies have been my favorite disc ever. I've thrown them countless times, and I love those things. This one just says, Lee, what is your all-time favorite mid? Come on, Lee. It's Gobi. Levi Viranen. Pretty good videos, dude. I love disc golf, and when I watch your videos, I learn English, too. I'm from Finland. Awesome. That's rad. Luke Redman, what are good courses to play for intermediate/beginner players? I play any course, man. I play them all. Even if it's a course that really beats you up, you'll learn a lot out there. And, it could be discouraging. You might get frustrated, but play them all. It's good to know those challenging courses. And I absolutely love and enjoy playing little short putter courses too. I play Vance all the time. I love that little track. It's nothing to write home about. It's not some amazing place. It's not this great challenge that's going to test me and my will as a golfer and as a competitor. But I get out there and I throw my putters, I throw mid-ranges, and I have a good time with my friends. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But I would also say, don't shy away from playing those really awesome, difficult, kind of world-class courses if you have them close by. I play Milo from the long pins, and there's very few birdie opportunities for me, but it's still fun, and I still like it. It's not really suited for my skill level. I do like courses and enjoy courses better when I feel like I can execute well and shoot well on them. I love that, and that's why I like Hornings Canyon, one of my favorites. Stub is one of my favorites because I feel like I can play okay there if I'm playing to my potential. But that doesn't mean I'm like really anti-difficult courses like Pier and like Milo and stuff. It's just a different type of thing, It's just you're playing more for pars and stuff, and trying to mitigate the damage more than like trying to, knock in a lot of birdies. It's all golf, and it's all has its own merits and different things that you're interested in, and different benefits and different aspects of it than I would say play them all. Don't worry about it too much, but there's definitely nothing wrong with playing courses that are way out of your level and beat you up. You'll learn a lot out there, and there's also absolutely nothing wrong with playing super easy courses and running for aces and getting a lot of birdies. It's all golf, and I love it all. Okay, I think I can finish off this page, and then I'll leave it at that. I got some other things I need to do. Okay, this one just says, Mac, what do you think of the polecat? Polecat, wow. Haven't thrown one of those in a long time, but I did have one for a while. Interesting disc, flies. You never take the lid off of like a tub of sour cream or something like that and you throw it. That's basically what a polecat is. And I actually bought, at one point I bought a really lightweight polecat thinking that. I was like, man, I wonder if this would fly just like the big lids on these big sour cream tubs that I would use at work in my kitchen job, because they flew awesome. I was like, man, this thing is basically like a scaled up version of that. And I think that's probably what the design was in the first place. It's a funky disc. I don't think it's for most players, but it flies okay. It's not a terrible disc. I know one guy who uses them as his putter, but he only like turbo putts. He's one of those weird kind of players that I used to play with, and he only does turbos, and he would call it the pizza toss, and he uses a polecat for that. That's really about it, though. It's not a very popular disc, but they're fun to mess around with. And if I remember correctly, they're very neutral. Like they'll hold lines quite well. You just can't overpower them. More of an approach disc and stuff. And I don't think a lot of people bag polecats, but I'm not really sure. I guess there's something for everybody out there. Mario Martinez asks, do I think Ricky misses his daggers? Maybe a little bit. He was really good with them. And I've heard from a few different folks that the new like Ricky Tour Series AVRs are deeper. They're like a little bit deeper big bead type AVRs. And that could be why. They could be kind of trying to mimic the dagger a little bit more, get a little more depth in the hand and a little more float. I don't know. He was incredibly successful with them, but I mean, he's pretty much one of the best putters of all time. So I think he could be fine with whatever if he has enough time to kind of work on it. But we'll see. We'll see how it comes out this year. And if he comes out of the gates hot and hitting a lot of putts, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. But I think he probably missed them a little bit last season. Sure. You switch away from something that you've been successful with. He's won multiple world titles putting with those daggers. I'm sure there was some degree of that. Mark Magic says, would you consider doing course reviews / walkthroughs? I'd like to see the courses in your area and how you approach them. That would be a very fun thing to do. It would be very time consuming. It could be something that happens when I get better weather this year. I would need somebody to help me with that, I would think. I kind of did a little bit of that with my favorite hole on the course. They're kind of a miniature version of that, just breaking it down to one hole rather than all of them, just for time's sake and that sort of thing. But it's definitely a type of video that I've thought about doing and could be something that happens in the future. You never know. Mark Stewart, what is your favorite hole and disc to use on it? My favorite hole. That's a tough one. It's almost certainly something downhill because I've always loved that. In disc golf, I just love floating a disc down the hill and watching it fly for that extended period of time. You get more distance downhill, and it just has that, it's just a beautiful thing to watch a disc float down a hill. So probably hole 7 at Stub Stewart, the one that I told you guys about earlier that I aced, is one of my favorite holes. It might be my favorite hole in disc golf. I really like the Dream hole at Milo. Which is a similar kind of vibe to it, really. It's straight, but you kind of have to bend it to the right a little bit to get around this tree that's right in the gap. And then the green is right on the Clackamas River. It's just a beautiful shot. That's a really fun one. One of my favorites in Portland for sure is, I think it's hole 5 at Pier Park. Also a smooth downhill shot that kind of bends slight left so you can throw a more stable disc down the hill. It's a really rewarding one to birdie, even though I don't do it very often. But yeah, I just something about it. I've always loved throwing down the hill. So probably hole 7 at Stub is one of my favorite holes. I like it better in the short than the long. In the long, it's a par 4 and it goes around the corner a little bit. And if you can land, where you would be putting for birdie on the short position, it's a pretty easy up and down for 3. But yeah, it takes some doing to get to that spot for me. It's not a guarantee. There's trees to miss and there's an angle to hit. But that's probably my favorite hole, and I tend to throw the same Fury I aced with. It's an Opto Fury 165. Probably the flippiest, one of the flippiest discs in my bag. Okay, Martin Linehan asks, what discs would you recommend for a beginner? Putters, mid-ranges, understable mid-ranges, neutral to understable putters. That's really it for beginners. If I'm going to take a new player out, I'm probably just going to give them a putter. I might have them try a little bit, like a mid-range, like a Wombat or something like that. If I have a good flippy mid-range, like my buddy came out for his first round, I gave him a Wombat to try. But he's more athletic, so I also had him try some understable drivers. That's usually not something I would do, but he was he's a strong, lean, athletic dude. So I was expecting him to pick it up quite quickly, and he did. He was a little wacky, of course, for his first few rounds, but he had some throws in there where he threw almost as far as I did within his first 2 rounds or whatever. So. It will depend on the player, 100%. There's going to be people that you'll get out there and just have a natural kind of feel for it, and they can throw drivers right away. I wasn't like that for sure. I did terrible with a driver in my first round, and I wish I had somebody in my life in those days to say, hey, throw these, straight putters and mid ranges for a while until you get better. You'll do better that way. We were still thinking, oh, driver, this is my drive, I got to throw a driver, the kind of misconceptions I try to steer you guys away from through my channel. But mid-ranges and putters for sure. In terms of specifics, I have a bunch of videos about that, or if you need any specific examples, shoot me an email and I'll help you out. Mason Moline, if you could only keep one of your 3 mainstays in your bag, the Magnet, Goby, or the Thrasher, which would it be? Magnet. It would have to be the Magnet. I love the Goby. I love the Thrasher. Yeah, I would not want to get rid of my Magnets, given the choice. There's definitely other mid ranges I could throw that would be fine, and there are other putters I could throw that would be fine. But I just I'm very attached to my Magnets. I would not want to give those up. Matt Hankhammer, just found you through Smashbox, loving your videos. Oh, sweet. That's awesome. And finally for this episode, Matthew Broughton says, love your videos. I bought a few discs based on your reviews, and you have a great knowledge of disc golf and plastic. Keep it up. Thank you so much, Matthew. You guys will notice I left some just comments in here as well, because I thought that would be nice just to read through people's comments and questions on the show. I'm going to, move away. I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Next question will be from another Matthew on this page here, and I should be able to wrap all these up on the next episode. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening. Much love to everybody out there. Hope you guys are having a great holiday season so far. Stay tuned. I will be doing a holiday giveaway very soon with something. I got to figure out what it's going to be, but I'll do something. It'll definitely be released before Christmas, the video, letting you guys know how to enter. So stay tuned for that. I'll be giving away some gear just to say thank you for your continued support. If you'd like to continue support, if you might be interested in considering to support me financially and help me kind of take this thing to the next level, take some of the pressure off, you can check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/discgolfnerd, starting at only $2 a month, and your name will be listed in all of my videos as a kind of a producer for the channel as a thank you. So stay tuned for lots more videos coming from me. Thank you so much for your support. Much love to everybody. I'll check you later. Cheers.